you see out here is a mix of a panel from different sectors, all right? So it's left to me to draw the best out of them and deliver to you in the next 30 minutes. And yes, truly delighted to be here, and thank you HRM Asia for having us here. And the topic that they gave to us was unleashing employee potential for a future workforce. Okay, and the first two words, unleashing employee potential, I think is very foundational to HR leaders out here, okay? And what better example do we have than the demonstrated ability that we had showcased over the last 2.5 years. Sorry, I have to talk about the pandemic, but in March of 2020, while I walked into the boardroom, while the business continuity and crisis management teams were discussing, all heads turned towards HR. It was like HR has a hat and they could pull out a bunny from that hat, okay? That was the expectation. The expectation was unrealistic. And why? Was because a lot many leaders out there were not prepared for the perfect storm. And we, I think in our profession, always get to prepare ourselves as well as our businesses for the perfect storm. And what was the perfect storm? I don't need to say it. The perfect storm hit us early 2020, and we were trained to handle the storm. So what happened is when the storm hit us, we all got into our individual boats and we started riding the storm. And as we were riding the storm, all those things that we knew, our learning, whether it was our own instinct or the adaptability that was built into us, the resilience that we gained over the last 2 years, and the innovation that went above it, okay, were some of the great learnings that we have. And that, to me, is true human potential that was unleashed during unprecedented times over the last 2 years. And therefore, who was at the focus of this, at the middle of this, at the core of it, were those HR and business leaders. Because with all that uncertainty, they ensured that the workforces delivered. They ensured that their learning systems empowered people, to deliver. They ensured their performance and productivity of folks went up, all right? And we are going to transcend a lot of these things across the different sectors here with my very eminent and learned panel. And of course, you also have your time to ask questions. And I'm not going to say we will wait till the end of us speaking, but if you have a very important question and it's urgent and you can't hold it back, feel free to throw your hands up and ask that question, okay? So with that, I want to also congratulate all of you for being here and for being here when HR is at the table. This is our moment. This is the moment for HR folks to drive the business. Not necessarily just be a partner, but be a very important partner in the drive of the business. So thank you very much. With me here, we have Vikram, we have Divya, and we have Veena, all right? And I'm going to just quickly turn mics over, starting from Vikram, to quickly introduce yourself and tell us one or two quirky things about you.
My name is Vikram. I represent Better Place. I take care of the enterprise business. I don't know what quirky things. I am a solo traveler, I told you. I'm a sports lover. I'm a table tennis player. I've been at state level. I love to write blogs. That's about me.
Thank you. So we have a state table tennis player on here. Divya?
Yeah. My name is Divya Matthew. I represent an organization called Critica Log, which stands for Critical Logistics. So we basically cater to logistics in the critical segment. It could be time critical, it could be value critical, it could be temperature critical. So about me, I've been in this profession for nearly 17 years. And my hobbies, yes, I do play badminton. I'm also a Bharatanatyam dancer.
Thank you, Divya.
Yeah, probably I think I can give company to Divya in dance. So I'm a Kuchipudi dancer. Yeah. So a quick introduction about myself. I'm Veena. I work with Axis Energy. We are into solar and wind energy sector. lately to add is the hydrogen, which is now becoming very popular. So the strange thing about our organization is probably we hire from, say, we have multi-diverse workforce starting from, say, ITIs to IITs. So this is the kind, sorry, from IITs to ITI. So this is the kind of combination of workforce that we have. Probably something very interesting or some strange thing about me is I always hated maths in my schooling. So even when I wrote my board exam, the last exam when I wrote maths, I put it in bold, the end. But unfortunately, I realized it at the later stage of my life that numbers will continue throughout my life. Everything my CXO's question is in data, numbers, dashboards. So yeah, yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Veena. There's no hiding from numbers, right, in today's world. So with that, unleashing human potential, one of the biggest drivers for unleashing human potential is technology. And I always say that technology, culture, and a value system should undergird an organization, all right? And to talk about it across sectors, all right, we have Vikram from Better Workplace, and then we have the energy sector, sustainability, right? And we also have logistics, and quite a few of them also have tremendous experience in driving blue-collar workforce in industries that are new and sunrise, okay? So with that, I'm going to go over to Veena. So Veena, let's hear from you a little bit about your company, okay, Access, and what you do, so that we know what is your day-to-day challenge at workplace, and then specifically, of course, what you have done in terms of unleashing this potential in people. Like you said, right up to the IITs, to the ITIs, you have a very diverse workforce. So we'd love to hear from you.
So again, moving back to my sector, my company, we work the most, our employed workforce are in the most remotest locations of India where there's even no networking. So when the other industries would enjoy, work from home culture or probably now into hybrid, we never had that luxury. In fact, my team force never had that luxury. So what it became very important for our organization is how do we reach, how do we motivate, especially during the pandemic times, how do we motivate this workforce? And we were considered as an emergency sector because power sector, being into power sector, we were emergency sector. So what we had to do is to continuously recognize this team on the sites. So we continuously reached out to them. We sent some appreciation messages directly from our joint managing directors, CMDs, the senior people. So especially at that level, more than it is the monetary reward, it is the appreciation that really matters. And that really pushed them, especially during the pandemic, to deliver the results that really, really pushed them. So, yeah.
So your appreciation, just a leading question. Appreciation was, how did you do the appreciation? Was it awards? Was it anything else?
So appreciation, we had multiple ways to do it. We specifically created some nice cards for them, sent it to them, because yeah, they're not all, not everybody is virtually connected or not, they don't have. So we had to send it to them, and we had to send it to their families. I think that is where, which made them more happy. It was actually easier to reach out to their family because they were working away from their families.
Yeah.
Okay, so the appreciation cards were sent it to their, say, spouse or parents.
Yeah.
So that's where made them very, very happy.
Absolutely, Veena, bang on. Because one of the things about appreciation is the personalization, right? And nobody wants to be known by your employee number, right? You need to be known by your name. Unless your employee number was 007, then it's okay, right? Yeah. But otherwise, we'd like to be known as an individual. And I think in a distributed workforce, that's so important. That personal touch is so important, right? And you guys did well. Thank you so much, Veena. Divya. Yeah, Divya, just like Veena spoke about a minute about your organization, the sector that you operate in, and again, your experiences of unleashing human potential and how you're preparing your workforce for the future. Thanks.
So Criticalog, as I stated, we are in the logistics domain, and 80% of our population are people who are on the field, who are the bikers. So we call them FLLs, frontline leaders, right? And the challenge is basically, especially during the pandemic, it was a challenge to get them back on the field. Since we were in the healthcare segment, volume slowly started picking up, but people were really worried to come back to work because they were worried they will get infected, it will impact their families, there were multiple challenges. So yes, what we did is very senior people from the leadership team as well went to the field. Just to tell them that you're not alone. We are also there. We are there as a backup. So we supported them in that sense. It's just not that they the leadership team sat at home and did work from home while the rest of them were just told to go to the field. So that was a sense of support that we provided to them. But having said that, many people have really grown up the ladder. So someone who joined at an FLL, as I said, frontline leaner, they have also become regional managers, handling an entire region. And the reason why that growth really happened is while performance is definitely important, when we are looking at progression, we also look at, looking at their aspirations as well as the potential, right? So we try to marry both of them, the aspiration as well as the potential, and that's something that we really look in terms of leveraging their capabilities.
Great. Thank you so much, Divya. And how many people do you have? You said 132 locations, right? And that adds the complexity. So I'm going to come back to you with a question in terms of how you are harnessing technology to go across this distributed workforce across 132 locations. Thank you, Divya. Vikram, apart from blogging, right, your product addresses a huge population of employees and blue-collar workers. Now, especially in changing times where the workforce is split between irregular, gig, moonlighting also at some times, how do you cope, and what are the type of workforce and options that you have for this workforce?
So I'll take a minute to explain what we do. I'm in awe of what we do. I joined this organization 3 months back, and there's a massive socio-economic impact that we create in India. Just to give a number perspective here, we all are white-collar employees here, right? In India, there are 20 million white-collar employees like us. But if you can imagine how many blue-collar employees are working in India, the number is staggering. It is 500 million, right? And I was telling Augustus that if you stack rank 500 million blue-collar employees and treat them as a country, this in itself will be the 5th largest country in the world. The kind of impact blue-collar industry is creating in India is massive, and what we want to do is bring technology to uplift this culture, uplift this ecosystem. Now imagine, managing attendance of 500 million people through register. It is not possible, right? So we have to bring technology into space. Imagine disbursing salary to these people through checks or cash. It will bring complexities into system and a lot of errors. So what we're doing is, as a company, we are a full stack SaaS solution, hire to retire. What we're doing is bringing technology into every step of blue collar employees. And that's how we are making their lives easier. As far as unleashing potential is concerned, we are creating vernacular training courses for all the blue collar employees, which are spread across different industries. Blue collar employees are spread in e-commerce, which is companies like Flipkart, Myntra, Amazon, or logistics, let's say Dunzos of the world, or BFSI sector like Niva, Bupa, etc. So this business is huge, it's massive. It's very important for us to ensure that we provide right technological tools so that this industry goes up. And the number states that in the next 4 years, GDP will be increased by 1.25% by the blue collar employees. And that's a massive improvement area for us. So as far as scaling is concerned, it's very important. We are bringing LMS tools in India. We have a beautiful LMS tool. It's vernacular. There are different languages. And we were discussing in rural areas, if you see, it's very difficult for people to understand English, right? I mean, if you go to Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, they will not be able to understand English. So it's important to impart training in their own language so that they're more efficient, productive, and more fruitful to the organization.
Hey, thanks so much, Vikram. I'll come back to you on that, and that's a huge workforce, right? And while you spoke about learning, right? And yes, I think learning is key to this whole thing. And what in the edtech space with, edtech companies who are, what you would say, obnoxiously valued. But for that workforce, you talked about, vernacular, learning and the experience. So gamification, did you do anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. See, training is a mundane thing for people, right?
Yeah.
So we generally see trainers as boring guys, and training is seen as boring thing, right? I mean, I'm in sales, and I understand that in order to make people productive and more efficient, it's important to gain knowledge, gain information. Information has to be interesting, right? You have to put humor into it. It has to be interactive. It has to be gamified. There have to be chatbots, which kind of makes the learning very easy, right? So we are doing it. We have a beautiful learning system, and we are putting everything possible so that training is important, interesting, and people are engaged towards it, right? Today, in our learning platform, we have over 6 lakh users who are using our learning platform every month, and they are engaged users. So just from numbers perspective, we did a study a year back, and it said that the operational efficiency of the company and the employee increases by 30% if people just focus on training.
Yeah, and training which is digitally delivered, right? Because the LMS systems that at least I was used to was a bit complex and boring, because I would go through different URLs, cut and paste from here, go here, answer those questions, and then at the end of the course, cut and paste this URL to go and get a certificate from here. But today, I think the learning experience is one click, digital experience. And that's what the workforce is looking at. And with that, let me move over to Divya. Thank you. So Divya, 132 locations, complexity and huge numbers, and a workforce which is very young. Let us know about your experiences there.
So when we are spread across 130 odd locations, I think it's the technology that comes into play. There are a lot of policy changes. There are many company updates. It's very difficult to reach out to a person who is 8-9 hours on the field. He's not going to check mails. Even if you share the mails to his personal mail ID, he may not have access. So we have an inbuilt IT platform which is called eCritica. It has been developed internally. So every frontline leader, as we call our people, they log into eCritica, because any kind of an update, whether it's pickup, whether it's delivery, mid-mile, any kind of an update, that has to be ensured that the update happens on eCritica. So what we decided is that whatever updates that happens within the organization, yes, people who have access to mails would definitely see it, but for these people who are on the field all the time, what we did is we created snippets, policy snippets. So every time the FLL logs into the eCritica platform, he sees the policy updates. So it's not that only people in the head office are aware of all the policies and people on the field are not aware of it. Or they are, the more important thing was to tell our FLLs that these are the benefits that are available. Please utilize these benefits. Because many times they're not aware of the benefits that are available in the organization. They're not aware of the insurance policies that are available in the organization. So this was a platform through which we really reached out to people. And once they log in, they see the snippet. If they understand, they would say, yes, they have understood. If they had any queries or they had further information that they wanted, the contact details of the HR person would also be mentioned there. So small ways, but it really had a major impact in terms of reaching out to these people.
Especially in your industry, wellness is so important, right? You're talking about bikers, and how many of us have been driving and, of course, cursed some of these people who cut through our path, right? Who are delivering some service or the other. But my heart actually goes out to those guys, who are out there, sun or rain, going and delivering. And I think that brings to fore culture. The future workforce is also about, building that value system within themselves, In spite of that rain and thunderstorm, the guy is out there delivering, okay? And he doesn't even know what insurance policy is covered by. And I think that brings us to what is called the duty of care. Now, any employer has to have a duty of care according to an ILO practice. And what is the duty of care? The duty of care is enabling an employee to be productive, which means that if I'm working from home, do I have an ergonomic chair? Do I have headphones? Do I have a UPS system because of the power fluctuations? And rightfully said, in your case, you're using eCritica to create that awareness, to say that, hey, look, you're covered, your family is covered, and so on and so forth. That brings us to a topic of wellness, okay? And wellness is one of the most important aspects in terms of the future workforce, all right, or the now of workforce. So with that, I'm going to move to you, Veena, and tell us about your wellness practices that you may be having in Access.
So, very important, since we work in power sector, wellness becomes very, very critical for us. Say in terms of not just physical wellness, it's also important for the psychological wellness too. So I think the pandemic has created a very good opportunity. I think pandemic really has created a lot of opportunities for us to think out of box, more out of comfort zone, come out. It's given us a lot of time actually to implement a lot of things. So safety definitely was an important thing that we made sure everybody across the organization learned about and practiced. They were rewarded for it. And then also we had organized counseling sessions, which were very, very important. I think what we always ignore is the mental wellness part, which we actually focused on. We had some good psychologists, some counselors visiting our people. We arranged for it, where people used to express, especially, again, I'm going back to sites because generally the office workforce, everybody will talk about. You know, they stay away from their families, they only stay with their friends, and they have to work in very remote locations. It is really, really tough for them, and probably once in 6 months they get opportunity to go and visit their family. So it becomes very, very important to motivate them. So mental wellness was something again that we focused on, and we brought in a lot of practices over there. Yeah, equally important, did we give it to our corporate and regional offices also. We brought in a lot of yoga practices too, small breathing exercises, small yoga practices, and you know what needs to be taken, diet, all of things, I think.
Thank you. So that brings me to one word, empathy.
From benefits perspective, we are doing two very important things for blue-collar employees. So you rightly touched upon insurance. When even white-collar employees don't take insurance, right? You know, it is taken as, what are you trying to say? Am I going to die? So insurance selling is very difficult. I mean, in India, you have 1% penetration of life insurance. So you can imagine what is happening with blue-collar. Nobody takes that, right? Because it is seen as an additional expense. What we are doing is, you know, we are pushing the entire insurance from our ecosystem to the blue-collar employees, telling them what is the importance for wellness. That's number one. Number two, if you see blue-collar employees, they exhaust their salaries by 20th or 25th of the month, and it becomes very difficult for them to survive. So there is a concept called early wage access. You know, in early wage access, we give them their salary back in advance for the rest of the 10 days, you know, so that they can kind of ensure that, you know, they are meeting the expenses. From that perspective, we are doing our bit. That business segment is called benefits in better place. Third is, it's not only about usual training, we are also telling them what is the importance of saving money for blue-collar employees. Even if they save, let's say, you know, 1,000 rupee in systematic investment plan, what is going to be the impact for his kids after 20 years? You know, they can save 1 crore, right? Second is, apart from this, we also tell them what is the, you know, importance of education for their kids, so that, you know, they are kind of motivated to invest in education and don't see that as an expense. So from wellness perspective, we are doing 3-4 things in India.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think the mental wellness and what you're doing is typically the duty of care, you know, and what we spoke about is also empathy, all right? And empathy is not just about clicking and saying, hey, I feel sorry for you, because people went through grief, losses, and health issues over the last few years. So therefore, there's got to be a greater level of empathy, be it through programs and policies as benefits, be it through appreciation. And also, you know, in a workforce, I train my managers, you know, in terms of how their empathy will be. You know, you are out there, like let's say I'm out there in front of my monitor on a very important call with my boss or my client. And that's exactly when Amazon decides to send a parcel to you. And I don't know how they manage that timing, okay? That's when someone's got their finger on the bell incessantly when you're speaking and you can't break off, right? That's also when your cooker whistle goes off, right? And that's when somebody decides to turn on the kitchen machine when you're speaking. Now, for managers, clients at the other end, that's annoying, okay? So that is actually empathy. If you are able to look at the workforce and the workplace and what are those disturbances, and in spite of it, stay on content, that is empathy, okay? And with that, Divya, want to come to you, all right? Enabling people, right? You have so many workforce, and we were talking about duty of care, benefits. Just tell us, you know, with all these folks out there, how are you equipping them you know, to either it is customer delight, or it is culture, value system?
So I would say the foundation for everything is the value system which holds our team together, right? I think every organization will have their value system. It's displayed almost every part of the workplace. But I think the value system is valued only when people value it, right? And if it's just displayed there and people are not able to relate to it, or if they are not aligned with it, then I think it defeats the purpose. So what we really did is, other than the values, yes, we have the broad values, we have innovation, we have you know, customer success. We also told them these are the behaviors that support the values, right? So it's not only the values statement that is there, but it's also about the behaviors that support those values. So, and these behaviors we also converted to regional languages. It was sent across to all the locations. So when people, more than seeing the values, they were actually looking at the behaviors.
So, sorry, Divya. Yeah. So which means you're saying, how do you manage an irate customer when you're doing a delivery? So all this content is delivered in local language.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. So basically, how do you, if a customer is not happy with the service, what do you do? So that behavior is actually what we were focusing on. Because the value statement is there, it's there everywhere. For example, integrity. We all know what is integrity, but at a field level, for them the understanding can be very different. So for them, we should really explain that it means there should not be any theft, because they are also handling critical you know, shipments. So simple things like this. So where we focused is on the behaviors that really support the value system. And that's the way we have been able to align our people with the overall culture and value system of critical law.
Thank you, Divya. That's deep and profound when you want to bring in the value system through, you know, those real life experiences. And you're doing this by gamification and things like that?
Yes, okay. Multiple platforms. Okay. As I said, eCritica is definitely one of it. There multiple times we communicate to people on person and through online platforms as well. And it is also cascaded down through the managers. Yeah. So we have multiple platforms where this is reinstated, because this is not something that we tell once and people understand it right away. So this is something that needs to be reinstated all the time through various platforms. Yeah, reinforcement, and you know, the content is available anytime, anywhere, because these people are out there on the field. Thank you. Veena, you were going to say something? Okay.
So just to add on to the value system that's spoken about, it's very, very important. So how do we bring in all this workforce together with multiple backgrounds? Is the common binding factor is the value system, a value system.
And how inclusive you are, right? Given the multiple languages, cultures, and things like that.
So also I think to add up to this, it was very, very important for us to imbibe this culture, especially for when we bring the external workforce and they newly come and step into the organization. To make them part of the organization, it was very, very important to make them part of a culture was through our value system. So there were a lot of workshops conducted, a lot of role plays, and people were rewarded who, we call it as My Way Awards. They were rewarded whoever displayed the value system. They were given opportunities. Very important is also for them to be given opportunities. Like a couple of our value systems were collaboration, values, collaboration, then innovation, integrity also was awarded. Integrity is just not just honesty as people think about, you know. There are a lot of ways, being punctual, being on time, not taking too many leaves, regular leaves. So people were rewarded on all this. So when you get a lot of rewards and people get appreciation, that's where I think people really love to live the values. And we also showed them a big picture of how they were connected to the big picture, how their work actually connected to the big picture, to the vision, mission statement. So that's where I think we were really able to tap on the collective productivity.
Thank you, Veena. I think you should have moderated this session. You got everything I wanted to say. So,
hijacked
yes,
one of my
Vikram, I
points.
was going to come to you. Go ahead, Vikram.
No, I was saying she hijacked one of my points, and I always say everybody wants to become the first student, the topper in the class, but not everybody works hard, right? So, as Divya said, it's important to value behavior, but it's also important for employers to reward the behavior, right? I mean, I can't say you are rewarded because you have done 120% of your target. I also have to say you are rewarded because you exhibited the right behavior. You are the right team player, right? I think I was reading this book called Give and Take by Adam Grant, and this is such a fantastic book. It tells that people who help others are clearly numero, in any field. I mean, even if you take politics, which is a cutthroat field, right? I mean, we have high regards about politics in a different way, but it says that people who help, even in politics, are clear-cut number one. And I think we have to inculcate these kind of behaviors, absolutely.
Thank you, Vikram. So the timekeeper signaled that we have a couple more minutes. Divya, is there a parting shot from you?
No, I think what is very important is that people should really sense that we are people-centric. Because I think it goes more with actions than words. So I think every small, simple thing that we do which impacts the person's life, I think that's where they see it. And a very simple thing, we actually don't call our people employees. I think many organizations have changed the terminology. We call them team members, we call them associates. So that word employee, it just doesn't show that they have been employed. So these are small things, but I think it all focuses on saying that people are important for us.
Thank you, Divya. So we kind of, at the end of the session, shall we take one or two questions?
Good afternoon, Augustus.
Hi, Padma.
Dear esteemed panelists and all friends, professional friends here in the audience. Those were some wonderful insights shared by all of you. I represent the academics and higher education institutions, and I'm a professor with the Ramaya Institute of Management. We as professors, we emphasize on the importance of skilling. And skilling is a vast world today, upskilling, reskilling, and there's so much of discussion about skilling. So my question or my point to all of you is, there's so much of discussion about moonlighting in the current scenario, whether it's good, bad. So when we tell our students, you need to go beyond your classroom sessions and upskill yourself, is it right, is it wrong, or moonlighting always existed. It was always there. So why are we debating and discussing this so much, and what do we go ahead and tell our students who would want to do something different during their evening times? What are your thoughts on this?
Thank you, Professor Padmaja.
Thanks.
I think, Vikram, go ahead.
So I was in a conference just a week back, and we asked Mohandas Pai on the concept of moonlighting. And he gave a very simple Desi answer. He said, you are working in an organization. If the organization in his contract says that there should be no moonlighting, you have to work dedicatedly towards one organization, adhere to that. If it doesn't say that, do whatever you want, right? I mean, that's as far as the appointment letter is concerned. On the skilling part, I was reading an article by Avnish Anand, who is the co-founder of Carrot Lane, and he said that in his team, there was a customer success manager, and the guy always wanted to be a coder. The guy learned coding on his own, as you said. I mean, we have to reskill and upskill ourselves. The guy learned coding, gave a test in Carrot Lane, passed through it, now eventually is a software engineer, right? There is an ethical path towards it, right? But if you are in dilemma, then refer to your appointment letter. That's what I have to say.
Thank you so much, Vikram, and that brings us to the end of the session. And thank you, Divya, Veena, Vikram, for your deep subject matter expertise and for sharing your thoughts and ideas out here with our audience. And on this topic of moonlighting and various other things, we are available here. We can talk over lunch too. So feel free to pose your questions during the breaks. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.